Whether you're just trying to keep up with the day-to-day tasks, or you don't know where or how to start your organizing journey, I've got you covered. Head to 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤𝙣.com/roadmap to find out where you are between overwhelm and peace of mind. Because if you feel like you're drowning in clutter, toys, paper, half-done projects, and just stuff, and you want to get out of that state and move forward to a more maintainable home, you can tidy up, or basically anyone can tidy it up. This roadmap is for you. Grab it now at 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤𝙣.com/roadmap. Well, hello there. You're listening to the Parenting Guide, Organizing Habits Made Easy podcast, and I'm your host, 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤𝙢. Thank you for being here and carving out some of your precious time to be with me today. And speaking of time, where did it go? How are we June already? Is it me, or did the month of May just fly by us like it was nothing? I don't know, but we're already nearing the end of the kids' school year, and there's still so much more going on. The kids have their projects, exams, outings, special events, and not to mention the start of summer activities too. Let me ask you this. Have you gotten your teacher's gifts yet? I happened to run into a couple of moms over the weekend and mentioned something about teacher's gifts, and they each gave me this scrunched up look on their faces, telling me, one more thing to add to the list. Trust me, I'm nowhere near anything ready for that. I just started with my list of teachers' names, and that's how far I've gotten. So if you still have to go out and get something for these amazing teachers and staff, I'm right there with you, my friend. In case you're wondering why the sound is a little different than my normal podcasts, it's because I'm recording here in my dining room, whereas normally I record in our bedroom, and the sound there is a little different. And I actually like it there, but the only thing now is the air conditioning keeps popping up whenever it wants to and slows down this whole recording session because of all the noise it makes. So if you do hear an echo and some strange noises, it's because I'm in my kitchen table and there's a truck outside at our neighbor's house. So the topic of today's episode, decanting food items, came up as I was organizing a client's pantry. I asked him if he ever considered decanting certain food items, and he wasn't sure what that meant or what it all entailed. So that got me thinking, this would be a great topic to talk about on my podcast, decanting. Well, I'm about to tell you all that in today's episode. But before I do, don't forget to hit subscribe and follow on my podcast show from whichever platform you're listening from right now. If you don't want to miss when the next episode releases, just head to 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤𝙢.com and click on the words, Be the First to Know. You can't miss it. It drops down right underneath the fuchsia media player. All right, back to our topic, decanting. What is it? How do you do this? And who should decant? You're about to find out right here. Are you ready? Let's go. What is decanting? The true meaning of decanting is to pour out a liquid, usually wine, from its container into a larger vessel to allow the wine to breathe. Now, for the home organizing space, decanting goes beyond wine. It's technically the same idea, pouring contents into another vessel, but the one doing the breathing, or has the impression of feeling like they can breathe, is us, the homeowner. If you Google kitchen organization or pantry organizing, you'll see thousands upon thousands of images where the spaces are organized using matching jars, containers, baskets, etc. to make it all look put together, neat and pretty. It's what's in right now, and people are loving it. It's inspiring, and the store-like appearance is getting people to take action on their own spaces. It's pretty awesome. Hands down, though, a uniformed look inside a pantry, closet, a shelf, or even a drawer is beautiful and interesting. Your eyes go from one white space to the next, and everything matches. There's no clutter, and for some reason, the closed containers and the labels just entices you even more to take a peek and even motivates you to use that space. That's what makes it so appealing to do. The brain has less to process, so that's always a bonus. On top of this, it's as though you have more space, more breathing room now because of the organizing systems and solutions used. And the pretty colors or neutral tones, the mix of textures and strategic use of white space really adds to it, making the space feel light and airy. Hence, the feeling like you can breathe. You'll know what I'm talking about when you see the images on Pinterest and maybe use them as inspiration. So back to decanting. As mentioned before, when you do decant, you pour out food items from their original box or container and pour them into other matching containers, right? So typically, containers are glass, plastic, and ceramic. The two main reasons are both for space saving and aesthetics. Now, I've already explained the reason people decant for aesthetic purposes, but when it comes to space saving, big and bulky is just challenging to manipulate and takes up more space for the amount of time you use it. For instance, manipulating a bag of flour that's 5 kilos versus decanting the flour into something smaller is far more manageable. It just makes sense. Or things that come in bags, cylindrical containers, or just odd-shaped ones. And pouring into a square-based container allows you to maximize the surface area of the shelf, the drawer, or cabinet. Small things do add up when you look at the big picture, right? Now, typical examples of decanting are dry goods such as spices, flour, like I mentioned before, rice, sugar, cereal, legumes, pasta, etc. We've seen these everywhere from Pinterest to even the actual aisles at Walmart and the dollar store with their different suggested food storage containers they offer. Non-food items examples are things like dishwasher soap pods, Q-tips, and the makeup removing pads you can house in a clear plastic container versus the original bulky, wobbly plastic bags that these things come in normally. Decanting items can be limitless. Your lifestyle and budget, though, cap all that up. Which brings me to how to decant your items. And I'm going to give you the skinny on the typical rules to follow. Number 1, the first thing you have to decide before the how to decant is what exactly are you decanting? Now, if you were paying attention to some of the examples I've mentioned before, or have an idea about it, then you know what I'm talking about. Normally, you would decant things that you use a lot, or items you buy in bulk. Now, this doesn't mean that you use these items every single day, but often enough. These would be called your staple items. One way of figuring out if an item is a staple item is asking yourself this. When the item runs out, or there's none left, do you go out and buy the same exact thing again and again? If you answered yes to this, then that's considered a staple item. Number 2, after choosing your container, wash and dry them properly, especially if they'll be storing food items. Number 3, write the date, when it was decanted and the expiry date from the original box. Number 4, this one is super important to avoid waste. Follow the FIFO rule. That's first in, first out. In order to do this before you refill a nearly empty container, empty the remnants or old food items or products into another bowl. Refill your now empty container with the new stuff and then top it off with the old. Number 5, it's normal for the decanter to not fit all the items. That's okay. Stock up your decanter and keep the overstock with your other overstock items. That would be in another area of your house or in a space that's less accessible but can hold your bulkier items. At our house, our overstock is downstairs in our garage in a shelf. Some people have a second closet to house their things, and only have the current items they're using in their pantry or main areas. And the last one is number 6. And I read this somewhere before, that it's a good idea to shake things up from time to time to make things look and taste fresh. The worst thing is when you're ready to use the food item, let's say, and it's stuck or glued to the bottom and sides of the container. I hate that. Or even worse, that things are hard as cement and they move around inside the container, but it's all stuck together in one huge clump and too big to even come out. This could have to do with the moisture leaving your container, and you need to get a better sealing one. This used to happen with us for brown sugar. We used this ceramic or terracotta disc that was said to retain the moisture so as to keep the brown sugar from hardening, but it never worked for us. So we found a solution by fluke. The only thing though is that the look isn't quite sexy. So you know how brown sugar comes in a bag, right? Well, after we open the bag, we roll up the open end or clip it and put the whole bag in a large Ziploc bag. Then we would put that whole thing inside a plastic food container. The results? No clumps, no hardening, or anything even after a few months. Okay, so I talked about food. The same rings true for non-food items like bathroom or laundry room products. If you want to maintain the zen feel of a bathroom, for instance, you can decant your favorite shampoo, conditioner, and lotions into matching bottles so as to streamline the overall look here and reduce the visual clutter of multiple bottles in different shapes and colors in your washroom. When it comes to other parts of the house, such as the laundry room, it's the same principle. On top of beautifying the place, especially when it comes to laundry, you need all the motivation you can get, right? So why not make the space inviting to be there? So reducing the bulky detergents and giant box of pods, decanting into cute smaller containers also makes things more accessible and easy to function in this space. I don't need to convince you that having things readily available to a certain extent saves you time and energy. I actually show you a breakdown of this on the number of movements being done by just grabbing a Tide Pod to do laundry. How many you do when you haven't decanted versus how many movements you do there when you do decant. If you want to check it out, it's in the repurposing portion of podcast episode 15. I'll link it in the show notes, or you can just head to dianejimenez.com/podcast 15, all in one word, to see what I'm talking about. The difference is pretty shocking. Okay, let's keep moving on. We talked about the what, the how, and now comes the who. Again, not the rock band. Who should decant? Remember when I mentioned earlier that what you decant can be limitless and the only things stopping you or what limits you are your lifestyle and budget. When it comes to who should decant or is decanting for you, this is where I get down to the nitty-gritty. Decanting requires observation and maintenance if you want to keep up with the look and ease of functioning in your space. Depending on the items you've decanted and the container you've chosen, it could mean very little maintenance or a lot. This alone could deter someone from even attempting to incorporate this whole thing into their daily life. But don't fret. Let me clarify. For items that are frequently being used, these will require multiple refills and maintenance. That's the bad news. The quick fix or temporary solution for this is delegating the tasks of replenishing the snacks, for example, to the kids. But not all tasks are kid-friendly, so the ultimate solution to reducing the amount of refilling we have to do is through trial and error of different organizing solutions and time. I know, not fun, but here's where your observation skills come in. Really observe the way your family moves in the space that you're aiming to spruce up and see their behaviors and habits around that area. Is it a crowded zone that gets a lot of action? Are items constantly being turned over? Or is the product shape, size, and form a constant at your place? An example of this is pasta. There are so many varieties of pasta. Which ones do you consume on a regular basis? You know, the bulky bags or half-used bags that are kind of an eyesore? Now imagine how much more of an eyesore when you have several half-used bags of pasta in the pantry. All that vertical space being wasted, not to mention shelf space. So that's why containing it in a rigid container keeps everything nice and tight and streamlined. Choosing the appropriate container size for your space is crucial. Here's an example at our house and many houses I've organized. Snacks are often stored in a drawer or cabinet, right? When they are inside the unit, how are they being stored? Now, depending on how you organize your cabinet or snack drawer, it can look really nice and neat or a complete disaster from one day to the next. There's a lot of maintenance and replenishing going on for this category, especially if you have kids or have constant snackers in the house, like mine. Prepare to maintain this space at least once a week for both the actual place where you keep the snacks and the overstock. So a few years ago, when I just wanted to contain our snack drawer chaos, I used what we had available here, which was a clear plastic shoebox. Even if it was slightly tapered at the bottom, it still worked. Not the best solution, but it let me see how the space was being used, how messy looking it got, which was less now that there was a structure implemented, and how easy it was to grab and go and replenish. The idea of an open, rigid container was in the right direction. The way it fit, though, with the other boxed items and bagged snacks, wasn't ideal at all. Over some time, I tried changing directions for the shoebox, but it wasn't quite the look I was looking for. This is where time, trial, and error all come in. When Costco finally had the containers from 𝙤𝙧𝙬𝙗 that were slightly smaller, more rigid, and didn't taper at the bottom, I went ahead and got them. Now, they're a little more expensive than the plastic shoebox from the dollar store, of course, but they answered my needs. Plus, I was able to fit more than one container inside the drawer to create even more structure. Now, things weren't toppling over each other and kept everything nice and neat. If you want to check it out, I created a before and after video so that you can see the transformation. I'll link that in the show notes as well. So if you're just starting out with decanting, a good rule of thumb is to decant staple items. In other words, food and non-food items that you always use. If you're past this point and want to make it look like those picture-perfect images on Pinterest, start slowly. Observe, see how you and your family live around the new system, and use what they already have. And use what you already have, or get something inexpensive to test out over time. Then ask yourself, does decanting the product make things a little easier or adds to your pile of things to maintain? An example of this is when I decided to decant our kids' shampoo and conditioner. There were two problems here. One, the pump I got wasn't the best or most sturdy one. So whenever they would press down on an almost empty pump, the thing would fly off. And number two, because of the size I got, pouring from the bigger jug into the smaller one took forever. Conditioner moves like molasses when the path is too narrow, folks. You've been warned. Anyway, after a few refills, I scrapped the whole system and kept them in the original bottles. For now, until I find a better type of pump, because my ultimate goal is to keep the shower area looking less cluttered and easier to clean. All right, my friend, there you have it. Decanting. What is it? How do you start? And who should get into it? Thank you so much for being so awesome, for tuning in. Please share this link of this episode with a friend who's trying to get their home organized. You never know if this is exactly the direction and clarity they've been looking for. And you just listen to it here. So text them the link, okay? I'd be forever grateful. My mission is to help as many parents out there with organizing their life and home, all while balancing the parenting life journey. So you never know what positive changes you're helping to make in their lives too. Okay, Here's my action step for you. Number 1, find an item in your home that's still in its original box or container. Number 2, ask yourself, would decanting this item make things easier for you and your family? And number 3, post a picture of that item and tag me on Facebook or Instagram at @OneTidyPlace. I want to cheer you on in your organizing journey. Easy enough? Let's do it. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you back here next week, my friend. Bye-bye.